Welcome back to another installment of Versus, a segment where we take a look at two highly anticipated upcoming games that have a lot of similarities and then stack them up against each other. First, we'll do a little background for each title, why we think each game will be great, and finally, which title we're more excited for. If you want to see our previous entry where we compared the two highly anticipated Ninja reboots with Ninja Gaiden, Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengeance, check out that video. One game in this segment will always have a slight edge, but spoiler alert, this is always going to be comparing two games that look great, and the answer will always be to buy both. This time around, we're going to be heading into the Metroidvania genre and comparing Hollow Knight Silksong and Crowsworn. Crowsworn and Silksong are both dark, hand-drawn 2D Metroidvanias that are being developed by small indie teams, as Team Cherry consists of only 3 members, and Mongoose Rodeo has a core of around 5 people. Both games are also sharing the same marketing and PR director. Continuing on, these two titles have humble Kickstarter beginnings. Hollow Knight was able to attract a little over 47,000 from around 2,000 people. Thanks to the added exposure that Hollow Knight brought to Metroidvanias on the platform, Crowsworn was able to get around 20,000 backers who contributed over 1.2 million. The similarity that most fans are aware of is that both games have outgrown their initial project scope. As we can see, although Hollow Knight Silksong and Crowsworn are arguably two of the most anticipated Metroidvanias, with the possible exception of Metroid Prime 4, they also have a lot in common, which is why it makes perfect sense to compare them. Let's start with Hollow Knight Silksong, which was initially planned as DLC as part of the initial Kickstarter campaign. If Team Cherry was able to reach a stretch goal of 56,000, they would add a second playable character that would have their own unique quests and abilities. When the pledge round finally closed, Team Cherry had secured slightly over 57,000, which was thanks to just over 2,000 people who took a chance on a Metroidvania from an unknown studio from Australia. Even back on the original Kickstarter page from 2014, where they listed bosses of the game, there were hints of a greater story about Hornet. Quick with her deadly needle, relentless in battle, Hornet is exploring Hallownest to find the answer to a riddle that has plagued her. She has so far resisted the infection, but will still cut you down if you stand in her path. Fast forward to 2019, and Hollow Knight has become one of the biggest Metroidvania success stories of all time. In February 2019, on the official Team Cherry website, Silksong was officially unveiled. It was also revealed that almost immediately after the release of Hollow Knight in February 2017, Team Cherry began working on what would become Silksong. However, they quickly realized that they had something better than they were expecting on their hands. They said almost from the very start, Hornet's adventure was intended to take place in a new land, but as we dove in, it quickly became too large and too unique to stay a DLC as initially planned. We do know that that makes the wait a little longer, but we think the final, fresh world that you'll get to explore is worth it. Silksong is a very different adventure taking place in a whole new kingdom with a very different moveset compared to Hollow Knight, as you engage in lethal acrobatic action as you take on over 150 all new foes. Now let's not forget that this was back in 2019, so who knows how many enemies are now in Silksong today. You'll find yourself battling beasts, hunters, assassins, knights, monsters, kings, and more. In addition to what we experienced in Hollow Knight, Silksong also has a greatly expanded gameplay system, including a crafting system to create powerful tools, weapons, traps, and mechanisms. The other new gameplay addition that I am most excited about is the quests, where you get to hunt down rare beasts and solve ancient mysteries to help you find long-lost treasures. Since E3 2019, where they were featured prominently in a Nintendo treehouse, updates have been few and far between, but based on what we have all seen and played with Hollow Knight, combined with their words, they are perfectionists, and anything less won't suffice. Funny enough, one of the questions on the original Kickstarter page was asked about the challenge and the risks that lie ahead, to which Team Cherry answered, "Time is always an issue, as is making sure that the core of the game is tight, challenging, and a blast to play. Our team is small, and we've limited bandwidth for bug fixing, our standard being to match the stability and impeccable presentation of a first-party release on the Super Nintendo. And to the people that think that the silence is detrimental to the success and the popularity of Silksong, All you have to do is check out Google Trends, and you can see that the interest in the title has only grown since it was first revealed. There have been ups and downs on the graph, but overall, it's a steady upward trajectory. Crowsworn is not trying to hide its inspirations. On their Kickstarter page, the description read, "Explore a grim fantasy world inhabited by men and monsters alike in this action-packed Metroidvania inspired by Hollow Knight, Bloodborne, and Devil May Cry." Crowsworn is a hand-drawn Metroidvania with a strong design emphasis on explorative platforming, immersive combat, and compelling storytelling. In addition to all this, another reason that Crowsworn sounds exciting is because 2 of their achieved stretch goals on Kickstarter were to add voice acting for the main character, some NPCs, and some bosses, as well as another stretch goal that was able to feature fully animated cinematic cutscenes, which were outsourced to a studio with expertise in the field, and they will be akin to the trailer cinematics. Both of these features are not only going to make Crowsworn feel much more like a premium game, but it will also breathe life into the world and hopefully make it even more immersive. All of this sounds very promising, but you never know until you get your hands on something, and I was fortunate enough to be given access to the media and backers demo. The demo feels clean and highly polished. The sound of your feet as you dash through dark puddles, the way your shadow bounces off certain elements in the background with its parallax environments, how tight the controls feel, and how weighty combat is. Drawing from their Bloodborne inspiration, every single enemy is challenging. They react different every time, and you can just as easily get overwhelmed very quickly from low-level mobs. As a reminder, none of this will be included in the final game, and the demo is representative of the state of Crowsworn at least a year ahead of its release. What Mongoose Rodeo did to create the demo was take all of the cut content and create some newly designed areas to create something that felt more like a cohesive experience. Now, the easier thing to do was just to stitch these rooms together and release it, but that wasn't good enough. There are 2 things to take away from reading between the lines of the demo release. The first is that the standards of Mongoose Rodeo are extremely high, as they didn't want to release a disjointed demo experience. Furthermore, the demo felt incredible and highly polished, and it's easy to forget that this is the level of quality that didn't make the final product. Both of these bode very well for the full release of Crowsworn. We are over the moon as excited about Hollow Knight's Silksong as most of you are too. We love Metroidvanias, and Hollow Knight is one of the best, but after playing the backers demo for Crowsworn, I'm more excited for what Mongoose Rodeo has in store. Once again, it needs to be said that there is no doubt in my mind that both of these titles will be excellent, both will be a day one purchase, and I don't think there's a wrong answer. However, the tone of Crowsworn just resonates with me on a deeper level. It's grungier, it's more gothic, it's more foreboding. The score of the game is constantly ominous and uneasy. It feels much more akin to dark experiences like Bloodborne and Darkest Dungeon. The one big caveat is that what we knew about Hollow Knight's Silksong years ago and what we know about it are vastly different because it's been almost 5 years since we got a really good look at the game. The lingering question isn't which game will be better, it's which game will release first. As for why the development on these titles feels long, I think there's plenty of reasons. To begin with, both teams are quite small, both teams only want to release the best product, and both teams have the ability to do so as they likely have funds to ensure development isn't rushed. In a recent AMA with one of the Crowsworn leads, they were asked something along the lines of what is happening with development, and their answer was that while creating the game, some amazing ideas came up and it would have been detrimental to the final product not to include them. Mongoose Rodeo also spoke of features that were completely new to the Metroidvania genre, and we can assume that similar sentiments apply to Team Cherry as well. So with the absurd amount of high quality games that are constantly releasing, these titles can come out when their time is right. The expectations for when we might see these games usually shifts from the next event to the next event, and the next logical event where one of these titles might show up could be the Nintendo Switch 2 full reveal. If Nintendo feels like it's lacking a great first-party lineup, having a game like Hollow Knight Silksong at launch would be a very strong choice, and they have a relationship already established from E3 2019 when they brought Hollow Knight Silksong onto the Treehouse. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and find a lot more like it. Video games is a positivity-first gaming outlet. We believe that gaming should be a force for good. We focus on making uplifting content with constructive discussions and celebrating what makes games great. That's all for today, and until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.